Well, here we are.
Hey, I feel like we should have this line between us right here.
I know it should be. Why don't you just do that the whole time? Yeah, just make that. So, if you don't know who I am, I'm Taylor. This is Carter, and we are here live on Spark Live. And we have got a treat for everybody today. We are going to be talking about why you should test your marketing. And we have got somebody that does a lot of testing that we have seen through the years, and we have asked us to come on with us. So without further ado, Mr. Chuck Hall.
Hey, man, I'm
Hey.
having a little technical difficulty.
No worries. Just tell you what, you work on it, and that'll give me a considerable amount of time to go through your entire CV here.
Oh, that's okay.
I did want to mention, just for those who might not know, Chuck is president of Winston's Chimney Service in Fairfax, Virginia. He is current president of the Mid-Atlantic Chimney Association, president emeritus of CSIA. He's a licensed contractor, blah, 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 yada, yada, CSIA certified master chimney sweep, one of the leaders in the industry. And in terms of business, I consider his business to be one of the ones that's knocking it out of the park and leading the industry. So we're excited to have you on, Chuck.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. And in some respects, we're knocking it out of the park. In some respects, we're getting our shit punched in. And that's just the way it goes.
Well, and it's ever the way it is. I mean, businesses, you never get done. You never get it to a point to where it's stable, and it's always going to be that way. It's always changing. You always have to react.
Well, I can tell you, though, these past 3 years, and the past 3 years have been awesome, except for the scary part in 2020 when everyone got scared back into their houses. There was like a 6-month period when, a lot of businesses couldn't do business, etc. But then it just got incredible. And you couldn't swing a cat without getting a $5,000, $10,000, $40,000 job. And I remember talking with a buddy of mine, someone that because this is not all chimney contractors, is it?
No.
No.
Right.
There are others.
Anyway, the guy in the chimney industry is pretty smart. A lot of people know him. He's probably one of the best chimney marketers that I know. At any rate, his name is Mark Stoner. And he said, hey, man, don't let this economy fool you into thinking you're a genius. And I said, too late. I already think I'm a genius. And because we didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
That was so wonderful. All you had to do was some of the stuff that you were doing before. And we grew in 2020 to 2021, we grew from 6.5 million to 8.2 million in revenue. Which is huge. Yeah. And there was all kinds of problems with growing that fast. I don't have to go into that. But I got to tell you, for someone who is shooting for the top line all the time, I love a big top line number. As another friend of ours says, mustard covers up a lot of sins. But that's not where we are now. That's the unfortunate thing. It seems like there's a reset, and all the people that got everything done when they were at home now have said, yeah, I don't have to be here. I'm going to go fly. I'm going to go take my kids to, the Grand Tetons. We're going to Maine. We're going to wherever they're going, but they're going and they're not staying. And from what I've talked to with a bunch of, my buddies across the United States and a host of different companies, they're like, it's pretty much flat.
Yeah. So now marketing actually starts to matter even more.
Yeah, it's back to the way it used to be. You had to be on point.
Yeah. So as a marketing company, I talked to a guy the other day, and he's like, man, I'm looking at my numbers and I'm looking at my analytics and yada, yada, yada. And I said, so what are you looking at? Are you looking at this year compared to last year? And he's like, well, yeah. And I'm like, yeah. The last few years is an anomaly. You got to go back to 2019. You need to compare your numbers there. That's a way more realistic comparison than looking at the last 2 years. So
I agree with you 1,000%. The last 2 years, 1 year was down because everyone was scared, and the next year was way up because people were stuck in their houses. So they don't count unless you want bad numbers.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to be realistic with the economy. You have to be realistic with your business, and it just kind of goes from there. So one of the things that we're going to actually talk about today, I don't know why that didn't work, but yeah, there it goes, is the value of testing new marketing strategies. And Chuck, one of the reasons that I wanted you on with this is you're really forward thinking. I mean, you go up and talk, and people know, you're very honest and forthright and all that good stuff. But you're also always looking at what's the next thing I can do. What do we need to look at? What do we need to test? What do we need to go to get to the next level? So I just want to ask this question of you. Why are you so open to testing new marketing strategies?
I think it's because marketing can get stale. To me, marketing has always been a moving target. And I think one of the reasons why is my particular market. So, for those of you that didn't hear, I'm in the Washington, D.C. metro. Okay, that's 5 of the richest counties in the country are in one market, which is incredible. It also means that we're the most because of all the demographics and psychographics, we're the most highly educated market in the country. So our clients are extremely intelligent. And we're talking about, a pain in the ass. A lot of them are very difficult. But at the same time, having an educated client, it's a double-edged sword. They understand things. They get it. But they're also not going to fall for the same crap that somebody else falls for. For instance, not to make a big deal, we're trying to switch financing. We offer homeowner financing, and we used to use one financing company, A, which was a loan, and then regular traditional financing, and B, the new one, which we were able to secure a better rate for us, and we were going to save good money. Problem was that it wasn't 12 months same as cash like everyone thinks it is. It's something different that some of us know. It's a 12-month deferred,
Right?
Deferred interest credit card that when you don't pay, it reverts to 29.99%. Now, my clients there are clients in this market, like every other market, where it's just the regular Joe.
Yeah.
But that's not the air that I fly in. I fly in the little farther up in the air where people can write a check for $25,000 out of their checking account, and it's very easy for them. Or if they don't want to do that, then they just use one of their rewards cards and get all the miles.
Yeah.
They can do whatever they want, and then we work for everyone else as well. But they understand those things. So I have to, as a marketer, I can't be throwing the same things at them that other people are throwing. I can't advertise in the penny saver. I can't advertise in these, coupon books that go out because that's not who I'm going after. Yeah. So we have to kind of sometimes come through a side door or a back door. And that's one of the reasons I liked social media so much when it first got going. And I remember having this conversation with you, I don't know, it was 5 years ago or something like that. And you said, oh, you want to do videos? Why do you want to do videos? And I said, because someone told me I needed content, and now social media has taken a little bit of a dive, not to say that I know anything, but I'm not ready to give up on it yet. But you have to be changing your game because it's the old who moved my cheese scenario. It's always moving.
Right.
So do you test? Have you always tested? Is it something that you've just, it's like in your DNA, you're just going to do this and, throw things on the wall, see what sticks? Or is this something you're coming to just as you've grown?
So yes and no. But I remember when I was selling advertising for a radio station when I got out of college, that's what I did. And there was a guy that had a fan store, probably 2 miles from the radio station. I'm like, screw it. Let me stop in. You got paid more on direct sales than you did through advertising agencies. And I'm like, it's a pretty good store. Let me go in here. Demographics should be good. Women 25 to 49 should be great. And then I sold him it was, and this was back, whatever it was, 1990. So it was a $5,000 package, which was a decent package. But, and it was for his Labor Day sale, Memorial Day sale, something like that. Long story short, I go in the week afterwards and say, hey, how'd it go? And he's like, complete flop. And that $5,000 was I was going to use to take my kids to Disney World. So now I can't go. And you know what? I felt horrible about that. He made me feel horrible. He did a good job making me feel horrible. I was just doing my job, and my boss said, yeah, the guy should have gone with the 10,000. Yeah, And I'm like, yeah, well, you're a hard ass. Anyway, but I felt bad about it. So I don't want to do that to anyone, including myself. So you've got to test. Just like when you're making something for the first time. Do you serve it to your neighbors across the street? No, you test it out first before you bring it out for public consumption. And you have to do that with marketing. And the strangest shit works. And we as business owners sometimes don't see that because we can't see the forest for the trees. And we're not really our clients.
Yeah.
And some of us are not our clients, and some of us are, but we still get blocked. So you got to test it, and you have to be willing to, put your feet out there, and maybe they get stepped on.
So, I'm a numbers guy. So this question is I was curious because I know a lot of people don't do this. Do you set aside a budget for testing, or does it come out of your yearly marketing budget? Like you just know you're going to do X amount of testing within that yearly budget?
So we take it out of our budget. And way back when our budget was 10%, which was, we were trying to grow the business. We were making mistakes right and left. We didn't know our ass from the hole in the ground. And we were spending 10%. And then we figured a few things out. And then all of a sudden it was 7%, 6%. And then for the last, 5 or so years, it's been 4.5% of the projected gross.
Right.
So we were going, for 8 million, basically 5% would have been 400,000, which is a big number. That's a big number.
And that's, I'm glad you said that in percentages because I hear people all the time, they'll listen to you, they'll listen to Stoner and some other people in different industries and say, well, they say they're only spending this much percentage. And what you're saying is you have to spend X. And I'm like, well, what's your top line revenue? And, their top line revenue may be $1 million. Well, 5% of $1 million is a whole lot different than 5% of 8 million.
It's not going to be enough.
Yeah, exactly. So it really is proportional, and the ratio has to do with whatever your revenue number is. It's unfortunate, but you got to spend more percentage to grow if you have a smaller company, and that's just a fact.
100%. But I'll also say that a smaller company is going to have a higher net when you get to be. Yeah, I got 54 employees, and people say, what's your net? And everyone's throwing their wang out and to measure. And I'm like, yeah, I got it, bro. We could talk about percentages or we could talk about real numbers. I'm ready to talk about real numbers if you want to talk about those, because it's not all about, that percentage gets smaller when you have less revenue coming in, and the same amount of money that I'm paying to keep my website going is the same amount they're paying.
That's right.
Yet my company's 8 million, going to be 9 million this year, and theirs is $1.5 million. So they're kind of, it's not the same. It's apples, but it's not apples.
Right. And a lot of people don't realize that.
Exactly. So you keep a baseline of marketing activities and set aside in your budget. These are the things that we do that just have to be covered, have to be done. We know that they work. We've tested these things, but we also reserve a little bit over here just to try some new things and see if we can't get some advantages. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
That's exactly the truth. And what happens is, and I don't mind saying it, I get scared. I get scared.
Sure.
I built something pretty big, and it's gotten bigger and bigger, and I'm going to take it to 14, 15 million. But all of those employees, they all got families.
Mm-hmm.
They all got families, even if it's just a girlfriend that they're living with or a girl living with a guy. They got a freaking dog or a goldfish. But a lot of them have kids, and if I don't make the phone ring, and then we go out and sell a job, and then we bring it back for them to go install, then they can't buy Pampers.
Yeah.
They can't buy the milk and the eggs. It's not all about me. I got enough money, and I'm going to be fine in the end. I still need more. Is there ever enough? No. But it's not like I'm making that much. I still have a retirement that I need to finish putting together. So I need to test what's going to work. There's the tried and the true, which is having a good website and having Google AdWords and doing your normal email blasts to your clients and doing some direct mail maybe to your clients, but there's you got to get on the social media. You've got to do some of the things that are working for a lot of people. Alignable, next door, some of these things you got to get out and try some of these. And then there's the stuff that doesn't cost anything except your time, and that's the networking. But
right.
We can talk about all that guerrilla marketing shit later. But everyone should be doing guerrilla marketing.
Yes.
And everyone should be going for their Google reviews. I mean, I'm sitting at 530 at 4.9. There's people that are much higher than me, and there's people that are a lot lower. But people look at that.
Yep. No, I agree. So, Chuck, tell us about something that you thought was a slam dunk, that you thought was going to be great, and then it just failed. Or if you don't have any things, just tell us that it always works out.
So I'll tell you what probably 100 people could tell you, and that's they followed what Mark Stoner was doing with We Fix Leaking Chimneys, and he was saying the way he did it in his market was to advertise on TV, do on bumper ads, on either side of the weather, and the difference is he's in friggin' Nashville, which is a podunk market back then when compared to Washington, D.C., which is a number 9 market. At least it was the last time I checked. Could have changed. Yeah. So much more expensive.
Yep.
So much more expensive. But I'm like, I'm doing it, and I paid all the money, and we did it, and it was a flop. I mean, it was so expensive. And knowing what I knew about advertising, I knew I shouldn't have done it, but I got caught up in following the golden boy, who if I would have listened to him, what he was really saying, he was talking about with any type of advertising, which is that word starts with a C and ends with a Y, consistency. Yep. And you have to be consistent, and then you will own the market. And for the people that stuck with it, they probably own their market now because they took that big cash outlay. But it was a huge loser for me. And the other things that are losers for me, but it does feed my ego, which there is something there. I do like it and get warm feelings, is when there's several magazines and they have the Best of Home Services edition. Yeah. And when we win those things, we used to try to win them. Now we just win them because it just happens. We own our market, So we win those things, and then then for a couple extra shekels, they will come over and take my picture and then we will do a little ad, and I'll do my whole thing, and I get my whole full page ad. I look like I do and do the whole thing, and that's a freaking loser. That stuff never brings magazines just for our company just don't seem to make the phone ring.
Yeah.
But you want to hear some crazy little thing that does?
Sure.
Some ass little thing. For $99 a month, we get a newsletter done for us by some company up in Baltimore. I don't know. I met some guy at a networking event, and he's like, "Yeah, well, we do this and that and the other thing." And I started talking to him, and he goes, "Yeah, we do newsletters. It's like $99 a month." And I'm like, "Really?" And you'll send them out to all my clients. Yeah. And so we do this little newsletter, and I'm not going to tell you exactly what I put in the newsletter unless you're lucky enough to get one. But they do these newsletters, and then people are like, yeah, that reminds me. And all of a sudden, we get, 10, 12, 15 calls, and that $99 has just made me thousands upon thousands and thousands of dollars.
Awesome.
And then so here's another thing. For those of you that are uninitiated, there's probably not that many dumbasses here. That's the good part. The people that are learning and that are smart are the ones that are here. It's the ones that aren't here that are the problem. That goes with all types of education. It's what is the return on your investment? What are you really looking for? Is it, I got one job for $99, so it paid for that. That's not it. Whatever number that you're looking for, in the old days, it was really simple. Boom. It had to be 10 times over, what it costs. I had to get a return of, times 10 of whatever it is, just because I'm spending 10%. Now it's like I need a 20% return, or it was a loser.
Mm-hmm.
It was a loser. I have to have 20 times of what I spent on it. If I spend $1,000, I better get $20,000 worth of work from it. And then that's there again. We haven't even talked about it. That's the tracking part.
Yeah.
That shit's hard. We're not as good as we should be. People keep saying when we ask, every month when we go through, when we start adding stuff up, yeah, I saw you on TV. Well, no, not necessarily. You didn't, but you might have seen, if you watch your big screen TV and you're doing your computer stuff through there, one of our commercials, one of our things might have come up. We don't, not commercials, but one of our ads on Facebook or Twitter or something like that.
Yeah, it's really interesting too. I think one of the things that I see is if you have an e-commerce business, you can set your tracking up really easy because somebody's buying it right there. When it's a service business, there's a disconnect between what we see on the analytics side and actually the numbers that you guys have. So that's why having call tracking and having tracking on the forums and having tracking in as many places as you can is really, really important these days. So I think that's 100% there true. So, Chuck, what is the number one mistake that you see companies making when testing their marketing strategies?
It's probably the similar stuff that we do, which is pulling out too quick and not setting it up properly to begin with. So if you're going to test something, let's test, eggs versus eggs instead of eggs versus bacon. Because you know what? Some people are afraid of eggs because it gets the cholesterol, even though we know that's not true anymore. But they might, you got to test the same thing. It's a scientific experiment, and they pull out too early.
Yeah.
Before you actually let it, you got to let it go. There's someone that I work with. He's our fractional CFO, and he is big on learning by going through the process all the way to the end, because that's where you find out a lot of information. And if you get scared, and I just told you I got scared, I get scared, all the time. I get scared of making mistakes because I've made so many freaking mistakes. It's incredible how many mistakes I make. But, John Maxwell, failing forward. More mistakes, and quicker you make them, better off you're going to be.
I mean, business is 90% failure and 10% success. It's just consistency, staying at it until you realize the results.
So that's the thing, is they get pulled out. They pull out too quick. I mean, doesn't that happen with you guys when you're trying to work with clients and they get scared?
We see the other side too, though. People that they've tried something, it didn't work, and so they double down, thinking that if they do it with a little more seriousness and grit their teeth just right, that then it's going to be successful. And both of those problems though have the same root cause, which is they're not tracking, to understand what success looks like, right? So their experiment was not well formed, and they didn't know going in what they wanted to achieve with it. And so because they weren't tracking, they weren't measuring, they don't know what success or failure looks like. They don't know when it's time to pull out or whether it's time to double down, because they just don't have good feedback, good mechanisms in place to give them the information they need to make a good decision.
Well, and also I'm going to tag on top of what you said, because the other thing that I see is they don't put enough money in the game to give it a chance. I mean, we've got a situation right now where we've got somebody that wants, they want to go after like 15 terms on Google Ads, on AdWords, but they want to spend $500 a month to do it. Well, you may get one click on, I mean, you're not giving it enough. And we're going back and saying, this is unrealistic. If you're only going to spend this, you pick 2 terms, I mean, because that's about all you're going to be able to get any kind of traction on at all. So it's these expectations that their money goes way further than it really does. So,
and I want to make another, I think, important point is, if you were talking to Mark Stoner or somebody else in the industry, and you guys would know who that person is, I don't off the top of my head, but somebody who seems to have a very good head, that's not you two, but a small business owner in the chimneys or home service, that's really good marketer. I'm not that person, okay? I just am fearless and not afraid a lot of the times to try. But I don't do a lot of these things by myself. I think that's the key. You make it seem like I'm fearless and I do all this stuff. No. What I know is I don't know everything, and I don't know what I don't know. Yeah. So when I am going to do something new, I have somebody else do it that already has learned from the learning curve, like you guys or like some other people that I do business with in marketing. I'm not the one picking everything. So I think that for the business owners out there that are like, yeah, fuck him, it's just, he's got a marketing genius for a brain, blah, blah, blah. No, that's not it. You go to the people that are doing that, which are, you guys, and there's other people in the market that are in different types of marketing, other than what we're talking about. That's who you go to. Otherwise, you're out there, as they say in my company to me, stay in your lane. They tell me, stay in your lane, because I know when I stay in my lane, which my lane has gotten really narrow. I'm an inside cat now. I'm wearing cardigan sweaters. I'm doing my nails up in my office. I mean, it's ridiculous. I get cold up there and everyone is, I know, but it's just the way it is. I'm an old man now and I'm stuck inside. But when you stay in your lane, which is running your business, and you bring in the experts, it makes it easier to take those chances. Right. But you got to trust them.
Yeah, no, you do have to trust them. So, hey guys, I know there's people out there. If you'll give us a thumbs up, give us a heart, just let us know you're really liking this content. And if you guys have any questions or whatever for Chuck, put them in the comments. We'd like to know that. Chuck, just one final question for you. When you start thinking about I need to do something else. Do you have a process that you go through, even if it's talking to other business owners, what's working for you, to where you finally get through to kind of say, okay, I want to try that in my market? Or is this just, I mean, I just want to know kind of how you find some additional ideas.
So if other people are already doing it, then it's probably too late. That's the way I look at it. You know what I mean? There's a bell curve for marketing. You know what I mean? If you're already over here, it's saturated, man. In some of those saturation games, it's like Google AdWords. Hey, man, you got to be in it. But you know what? Depending on what market you're in, you're outpriced, dude. You can't go in there and dominate.
Yeah.
But if you get on something that no one's doing yet, but you got to take the chance, you might kill it. I mean, I don't know how many companies are doing stupid ass newsletters to their clients. Not that many, but it's a nice little chunk every month that comes out, and it's so little work to me. All I do is say, yes, I like what you said, or no, try this. But it's these other types of marketing, you got to get on it and get ahead of it. That's the way that I'm looking at it. And you know what? I don't ask other people. I ask people like you, because you guys are saying, yeah, here's what's going on. This is what's going on. There's a couple, you can try this, you can try that. There's this, that's a possibility. And you try it, and you pick one, and you go all in on that one and finish it. But that's just my process. I don't give a shit. I mean, listen, I love best practices. And I'm about to go to my mixed group in Minneapolis, and you know what? I'm going to get some gold from some of the people that are in there, and they're going to give us some best practices. And there's some marketing stuff, but when some guy comes in there with the best practice and says, yeah, my best practice is we go to home shows. And I'm like, dude, 1990 called and they want their home show back. Not to say that you can't make money on home shows, but that's an old idea. And if for some people, and then let's talk about this one more time, what works in my market might not work in your market. And there are people in some of these smaller rural areas like Lancaster, Pennsylvania, where they don't have a whole hell of a lot of competition, and they go out and they do their home show, and they get $25,000, $30,000 worth of jobs coming in. I go to my home show, and it is gargantuan. It is huge. You can't even get through the whole thing, and it doesn't really work for me. Right. And maybe I didn't do it right.
Well, it could be, or it could just be the difference in the market. And that's the other thing, is when you take advice from other people, you have to take into consideration the fact that their market, their business, their target customer, all of those differences that
their implementation.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. All of those things that inform whether or not that's going to be successful for you, right? And it's not a true apples to apples comparison most of the time. So that's why testing is important, though. You don't really know whether something's going to work until you try it and see. And that's really, if we had to nutshell this, having a certain dedicated amount of money set aside for those experiments to find out where additional success can be had is just really important. And it's something that we don't see enough people do, but when we have a client that does and is dedicated to trying some things and seeing what else can be done that will get a good result, it's worth talking about.
Man, I want to win. I think losing sucks. So I'm going to do everything that I can to win And sometimes that's putting me and my ego aside, which takes a bulldozer. But I will put other people in front of me that are going to help me get the right answers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
No,
they
I
have to,
think that's great. That's great. Well, Chuck, thank you very much for spending this time with us. We really do appreciate it. We know you're getting ready to go overseas and have some fun and enjoy yourself and smoke some cigars and just have a great time.
I appreciate it. And I know that, all the little things that we're working on, I'm going to get little emails and texts. And that's the other thing. I gotta give you props. Not everybody gets back to their clients as quickly as you guys do. And I really appreciate that, because sometimes, like I said, sometimes we get scared. Sometimes we're
Yeah.
like, well, this is not working. My phone calls dropped, whatever, 15%, what's going on. And not that there needs to be a lot of hand holding, but I need answers on when's the next thing hitting or whatever. And you guys, I appreciate it.
You bet. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks again, and safe travels, buddy. Have a good time. All righty.
Safe travels to you guys too.
Thanks.
All righty.
Bye.
So, guys, the ones that you're left, thank you so much for being here. Chuck is always fun. Just remember that Spark Live can now be found as a podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, or your favorite player. That's always fun. And next week, we are going to be back. It's going to be a fun show. We're going to talk about web design mistakes. It's kind of that crazy things that we see from time to time in web design, and it's going to be fun and entertaining. So look forward to seeing you guys then. It's kind of interesting because we're kind of in the same place. So we don't have to, I guess we'll wave goodbye here and not to each other. So y'all have a great week. We'll see you next week. Thanks.